Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a very important and special video for you today because it is my first ever speed paint on my channel. As you know, I'm a mixed media artist, but I spend a lot of my time with watercolor. I consider that to be my main medium, so I'm very excited to share my first watercolor speed paint with you, and it will be the first iteration of my weekly ramble where I will have a speed paint or a speed something of art, and I will talk about an important topic that I think about during the week. So today's topic is finding your own artistic style and how to nurture that artistic style until you get comfortable with it. So it's very important to me because just recently I've been able to be comfortable with my own artistic style. I've always finished my art and haven't been proud of it because I don't think it lives up or doesn't compare to other artists out there who make work. And that is one of the worst things you can do when you're making art, is to look at it and compare it to someone else's work. It's good to look at your art and criticize it. Constructive criticism is always good, especially from you, from another artist, or just from any audience, because it can help improve your work. But you don't want to compare it or have criticism that directly relates to your artistic style instead of your technique, because your artistic style is something that you should be comfortable with, and people shouldn't try to change because it's just how you're going to make art. And your artistic style is that thing you always see when you look at your art, and that everyone else will be able to look at your art and say, this is this person's art, and you can just tell, and that directly relates to them seeing your artistic style. So don't let other people try to change how you create pieces or just your style in general. So some practices that you can get into, or some routines to help grow your artistic style and for you to get more comfortable with it. Number one great practice for you is to take a reference photo and tell yourself that you're not going to try to do it realistically. Just look at it and say, I'm not going to try to recreate it line for line. I'm just going to take this and I'm going to create something from it. And while you're creating that thing, don't take in outside input. Don't look at other people's versions of it, and don't try to mimic the other versions of how other artists have done it. You just look at that reference photo and you tell yourself that you're going to create something from it. That's going to kind of show you how your brain works when you're analyzing an image, and it will help grow your artistic style because it's your imagination leads to the way you interpret that image. Another great way to nurture your artistic style, especially when you're just starting out, is to go and look at some of your favorite art pieces or your favorite artists, and look at their pieces of work and look and see what makes them unique, whether it's the way they do their line work, or their use of color, or their medium, or their overall mood or story or narrative that comes across in a piece of work, whether that be a painting or photography or anything for that matter. And what you can do is, instead of just sitting down and looking at their work with a pencil and trying to copy it line for line and dot for dot, you take what you find is unique about it and you make a piece about that. You make a piece incorporating those aspects of their work, because most of the time you're going to want to create what you like to see. So if you look at those techniques that you like and try to incorporate them, you'll start to grow your own artistic style, and it'll really start to take shape and show up in your pieces. The third and final thing you can do when trying to find your artistic style is just criticizing your past pieces. After you get done with a piece of art, look at it and say, what could I have done better? What can I do to fix some of the areas where I made mistakes or errors? That'll help improve your art in general. To improve your artistic style, what I want you to do is look at your piece and say, what could I have added to make this better? What could I have implemented? What techniques? Not what you could do to fix what you did do in the piece, but what do you wish you would have incorporated? Whether that's line work, or a certain color palette or a certain medium or a certain subject matter. That'll help grow your artistic style because it'll show you what you want to see in your pieces, and it'll push you outside of just what's easy and ready in your brain to create. It'll push you to see what you want to create, and that is super helpful when trying to find your artistic style, is just thinking about what you should do to make you enjoy it more. So that's my little talk about that topic for now. A little bit about the piece. I did a quick sketch of this in my watercolor sketchbook. I just got this watercolor sketchbook a couple weeks ago. It's a Canson XL watercolor sketchbook. Spiral bound. I really like it. My only critique is it's not double-sided, but even if it was, I probably wouldn't use it double-sided just because it's watercolor, so it gets warped. Other than that, though, I think it takes the water really well and everything. So this is my first portrait in this sketchbook, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I started off with her hair, and I wanted it to be very flowy, kind of like the 3 marker challenge that I just did, which I will link in the description below and up in the corner of this video. I wanted it to be very free-flowing, and there's a watercolor artist that I really like on YouTube, and his work, the way he does his hair is so interesting. And like I talked about, finding your artistic style, looking for aspects of other people's pieces, and putting your own twist on it. So I thought, I'm gonna do his similar style of hair. I'm not gonna copy his hair, but I'm gonna do a similar idea. I'm gonna make it very flowy, almost like it's defying gravity. It's not like strand for strand, the hair's just one mass. And I decided to illustrate it in a watercolor galaxy. Watercolor galaxies are super fun and super easy to do, and they always look great. I do watercolor galaxies all the time because they're just super easy and they're super fun to do. I'm probably going to do a tutorial on watercolor galaxies on my channel later on, and so I decided to do that in hair. The face, I mixed kind of a peachy, light, faint color with my watercolor palette. And when I shade, you can see it's very blocky. My shading style, my artistic style, the way I do shading in my artistic style is to do it very sharp and drastic and bold. So I don't try to do a nice, smooth, realistic shading. As you can see, I did about 3 levels of shading on the face in this piece. So I did an initial shading around the neck, just to give it a little shape, to make it to give it depth and to make it feel 3-dimensional. I then did a light shade on the chin in that same color, and then I went over and I darkened part of the neck just to kind of separate the chin and everything. And I think I go in again later too with the neck and just make it deeper. I did her lips and her eyeshadow in the same color, and it's kind of that purple color. I added in a little more black to darken it up, but it's a similar color to the galaxy behind her. And then as you can see, I had made a mistake. I had accidentally smudged the lips, and I didn't realize until after it dried, so I couldn't lift the color. So I decided to fix it. I would just continue the galaxy idea. So I took up a lot of that purple paint that I had used in her hair, and I just put a massive puddle, and I put it right up against her face where that smudge was, and then I just took it in the opposite direction and blew it out until it splattered. And I did that on the other side of her too, on the back of the hair. It's really cool splatter technique. I love the look of it. So you just take it and you put a big puddle of color right up against where the piece is, and then you just blow in the opposite direction. That way it doesn't overlap. And I really like how that turned out. So an interesting thing about this piece was I wanted to try loose watercolor for the first time. And I always do like fine lining in all my pieces before I color them in, especially with watercolor, because watercolor is so loose and free. But I wanted to do loose watercolor for the first time in forever, so I really liked how this turned out. I just went in with some fine liners and gave her a dark lash, an eyebrow, and the lips. I didn't like how they turned out, so I did fine line those, but that's the only thing I fine lined in the piece. And then I went in with a white jelly roll pen and added the stars to all the galaxy aspects of the piece. So going back to my weekly ramble topic of finding your own artistic style, like I said, this is my first time doing loose watercolor, and that is a super important and good thing to do when you're trying to find your artistic style, is just to try everything. Try different mediums, try different styles. I tried loose watercolor for the first time. I loved how it turned out. I'm going to do it again in the future, probably more than I do fine lining. I really liked the results of doing it. So just experimenting is a really good way to find out what you like and what you think looks best in your pieces, and that's really going to help improve your artistic style. Back to the piece, I wanted to do something a little different. Usually when you think portraits, you think curves and faces and flowing and things like that. So I wanted to kind of counterbalance that in this piece with a lot of geometry as well. So as you can see right now, I'm going in with this gold marker and I'm creating these triangles that flow throughout the piece. Not only do they add in some geometric sharp lines and features, but they also travel throughout the piece, so they give eye movement throughout the piece, which is really good composition-wise. Always try to get some sort of eye movement throughout the piece. I also did 2 horizontal lines to give that calm feeling. Vertical lines give off a feeling of rigidity and order. Diagonal lines give off a feeling of chaos and energy, and horizontal lines are nice and calming, and I felt like with her hair and everything, the horizontal lines would just add to that calm mood and sense. And so I did those in really earthy, natural tones of greens and browns. And then I just added in this circle in the bottom right because I'm a photographer and something was just itching inside of me to implement the rule of thirds in this drawing. So it's exactly what I did. I wanted a nice kind of second minor focal point in the bottom right. I was originally gonna completely fill out the circle with this silver pen I have, but it didn't. I was not going to take all that time to fill it in. It was just not going to happen. So I just added in some lines to make this weird fluid design, which I think matches the theme of the piece. So yeah, that's kind of the whole circle thing. Also, real quick, just to send it a shout out to Artsnacks. I had their subscription for a really long time. I don't anymore just because I don't have a lot of money, but that's where I got the gold marker and the silver pen from, and I love almost all the products I get in a box. So I highly recommend that if you're interested, and I'll probably be getting the subscription soon enough again, and I might do some unboxings on my channel. So this was my piece. And my first ever weekly ramble for my channel. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment in the comment section below and give any ideas. Bye.